Welcome to this video about working with your feet. And it's a really wonderful, simple thing to do that can help improve your balance. It can help improve your posture, your alignment. So it can help with any issues you might be having physically with your feet or your knees or your hips. It can just help a little bit or a lot, perhaps. So you could try it and see how you feel. The other real advantage of working with your feet is that it's a very grounding thing to do. It's very calming for the mind. And this works in two ways, I guess, in yoga. First of all, we're simply giving your mind something to focus on. And when you direct your mind to what you want to direct it to, it takes it away from things that maybe you don't want it to be thinking about. A lot of us ruminate. And so working with the feet can be very useful, a way of just stopping you having continuous thoughts on a loop, which we call rumination, and just giving your mind some focus, something to notice. And sometimes that's enough just to break that cycle and to help set your thoughts on a different path altogether. So it can be very useful like that. And it also helps you just to learn to pay attention to how things are feeling in your body. So, you might notice I'm holding a few things. So the first thing to say about when you're working with your feet is always to stay comfortable. You know, if your feet aren't used to moving around a lot, which might sound daft, but a lot of us wear shoes a lot of the time, and that they hold your feet quite stiff. And so your feet might have forgotten that they can be flexible. They might have forgotten that they can move, and your toes can move separately and all that sort of thing. So just start nice and gentle, build it up. And if anything starts to feel uncomfortable for you, do stop and come back to it at a different time. So the first thing we're going to do is massage the feet. I'm going to use a tennis ball today, but there are some other things you can use. I'm just going to come over and show you. So you could use like a spiky ball, something like that people use in washing machines or tumble dryers, that sort of thing. That can be really nice if your feet aren't feeling too sensitive. If you're doing it sitting down, you'll notice as we practice today that the balls tend to fly away a little bit. So a sort of roller, something like this, you can get ones with knobbles on, and you can get ones that are little wooden balls. There's lots of different types. So if you fancy that, you could get something like that. But we're going to work today with a tennis ball. So all you do, it's very simple, is you place the ball under your foot and you start to move your foot around on the ball. So you can work into the heel, into the arch of the foot, under the toes. And you can really press that ball down hard if that feels nice. And if you want it to be gentle, you can do it much gentler. So I'd start off gentle and press down more firmly as my foot got used to it. You can roll along the sides if you like. Our feet are actually really quite mobile structures. You can probably notice that as you move the ball around, you can really get into those little nooks and crannies in the arch of your foot. And then let's move on to the other side. And they do just stiffen up a bit if we don't stretch them, if we don't use them. And there's a lot of input going from your feet up into your brain about the surface that you're on, whether it's rough or smooth, whether it's even, all that sort of thing. And so working the feet like this just wakes them up a little bit. And that sort of thing helps your balance. When you've got information coming from your feet up into your brain, it gives your body more of a chance to work out what it needs to do to keep balance, to keep you upright. And you can see this ball going everywhere. That's why if you're going to regularly practice this sitting down, you could always just have something around you, like a scarf or something on the floor to stop the ball moving around. But you could use a foot roller instead. So when your feet feel nice and even and lovely, just pause for a moment, and you could maybe close the eyes and just feel into your feet. And that might take a bit of practice if you're not used to. It's a long way down to your feet. Might take a bit of practice just to see. But maybe have some, words that you could think of, like, do your feet feel warm Do they feel tingly? How is it on your right foot and how is it on your left foot? And do you feel that sensation coming up a little bit, maybe into your ankles or into your calves? So I'm going to get rid of this ball now. And we're going to work a little bit with stretching the feet now. So stretching the feet is a really lovely thing to do. If you're not used to doing it, it can feel tender. So I would like you to keep yourself really, really comfortable with this and only practice it gently to start with, and then build it up stronger if you like. So let's lift the heel of one foot and just gently press the ball of the foot down into the floor. And it's up to you how hard you press into that. Just notice how it feels. You might notice the stretch in the toe joints, in the sole of the foot, in the ankle. If it's comfortable, you could move your weight around from side to side of your foot and see what that feels like. Great, and then pause there. What we're going to do now is take the tops of the toes down. So if you're sitting, take the foot underneath the chair. And what you want to watch here is that your foot stays in line with the shin bone rather than letting it lean out to the right or the other way. The foot stays in line. That's better for your ankle. This can be a really interesting stretch to work with. When I first started doing it, I didn't like it much because my feet were really stiff. But actually, I found it very, very helpful over the years. And you do actually come to enjoy this stretch once you get used to it. And then we put backs of the toes down, just pausing there. And then let's pop that foot down on the floor and see if you can close your eyes or have your eyes gently open and notice how it feels in the foot. Just notice the differences now between that foot and the one you haven't stretched yet. What feels different? Maybe the toes, maybe the sole of the foot, maybe just the whole foot feels warmer, and then we'll do it on the other side. So we pick up the heel to start with, just working into that. And you can do these movements standing up as well. And we're going to repeat them in a minute. Standing up. If you like to do them standing, then of course you could do them standing straight away. You don't need to do them sitting if you don't want to. It's just nice to show you that you can do them this way because they're so beneficial. If you want to, you can move around the inside to the outside of the foot, keeping that really gentle for you. And then we'll take the tops of the toes down, again having that awareness you're not leaning to the side of the foot, that your foot's fairly straight in line with the rest of the shin. Pause and breathe. So these stretches are really beneficial if you have if you wear shoes that you grip with your toes, those muscles get tight, and this can be really helpful. But it can feel tender at first, so do work nice and gently, building it up as feels good for you. And then we'll pop the backs of the toes down and then put the foot down on the floor. And just pause for a moment there and breathe. And notice how it feels. Hopefully the feet feel similar now. So if you, sometimes when people start yoga, they get cramp in their feet a lot. And because traditionally we practice yoga in bare feet, and some people just aren't used to not wearing shoes at all, your feet find that difficult and they can cramp up a little bit. So if you do get cramp in your feet when you practice yoga, these are really good things to work with on a regular basis, and they can be very, very helpful just in loosening off your feet. The next thing we're going to do is work with the toes a little bit. The first movement is from releasing the joint sequence Power Muktasan. There's another video of this on my channel, and that works through the whole body, but today we're just working with the toes. So on one foot, just stretch the toes wide and then scrunch them up tight. So maybe as you breathe in, you stretch the toes wide. As you breathe out, you scrunch them up. And if you want to have a look, just watch your foot as you do it. And it can be really nice just to notice the mobility that you have in your toes and the shapes that you can make with your foot. Beautiful. and then we'll pop that foot down. And again, just notice, so to do those movements, you're using some of the muscles in your shin and your calf, so you might be aware of them having worked as well. Then we'll do it on the other side, stretching the toes wide and scrunching them up, stretching them wide, scrunching them up. And you can think about stretching them upwards and wide, or stretching them out to the side and wide. What feels really lovely today in your foot? Maybe you breathe in as you stretch, breathe out as you scrunch. Wonderful. And then we'll pop that foot down and just take a moment, just appreciate what feels different now in that foot, having stretched it. So then we're going to work into the toes a little bit. We're going to pick up one toe, pop it down, pick up the other big toe, pop it down. So just working with the big toe to start with. Now, when I first started doing this, I could move my right big toe, and that was it. I would look at my left toe, absolutely nothing would happen. My brain had forgotten how to tell my left toe to move. And I think a lot of us are like that, judging from the people in my yoga classes. So what you can do if it's comfortable is just lean forward and look at your toe quite intently, and maybe stroke your toe, stroke along the top of it and underneath it. Give it a good old rub while you're looking. And what you're doing there is you're helping your brain find your toe. That might sound a bit daft, but on the inside of your body, those connections are there. They may be just a bit rusty, if you like. So just reminding your brain where your toe is. And then if you want to practice picking it up, maybe take the finger under the toe and very gently raise the toe and lower it, and raise it and lower it. While you're trying to do it, just with the strength in the foot, with the muscles of the foot, you can pick it up with your fingers as well. And on the other side. And you might have one side that feels much harder to work with than the other. That would be very normal. So again, just working into that foot, into that toe, giving it a good rub, and then maybe just very gently lifting the toe as you think about doing it, popping it back down. What you might like to do is just notice how the arch of your foot changes as you do this. You're really starting to work into the arches of your foot. Brilliant. So that might be where you want to stop for today. But if you're enjoying working with your foot and your toes, what you can build up to is raising the middle three toes and leaving the big toe down. And I wasn't sure this was possible till I saw someone else do it, and then I tried a bit harder. And it's the same routine. If it's hard for you to do it, then you can pick the toes up, touch them with your fingers, but I'll show you. So you can really push down on your big toe, and that'll help you to maybe lift the middle three toes up. Just practicing that. And again, you'll notice that the arch of your foot really changes. So if it's hard for you to do, just very gently holding those toes. And eventually your brain works out what you're trying to do. And then once you've got the hang of that and that's feeling really lovely, you could maybe pick up one toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, pop it down one at a time. That takes a bit of concentration. Picking up the big toe, second toe, third toe. My little toe doesn't lift on that foot, not yet anyway. Lovely. And just pause there. So there are some surprising benefits to working with your toes, and being able to move your toes like this is very beneficial for your pelvic floor. So there is a connection between your pelvic floor muscles and your feet, especially the arches of your feet. And so you'll notice when you move your toes, the arches of your feet change. And there's a connection, particularly up through the inside of your legs, from the arches of your feet all the way up to the pelvic floor. So if you wanted to explore that a little bit more, there's some lovely information in a book by Dinsmore-Tuli called Yoni Shakti. She talks about that. And in a lovely book by Katy Bowman about working with to relieve foot pain, she talks all these stretches, particularly working with the toes and the stretch where you put the foot behind you. So if you wanted to explore a bit further those are a couple of references, and I'll put those in the description of the video. Okay, so what we're going to do, if it's comfortable, is repeat those two last things while working with the foot stretches and working with picking up the toes, standing up. So if you want to repeat them sitting down, do. But if you want to stand up, we're going to push down hard into the feet, bring the arms in front of you, and bring yourself up to stand. And I'm just going to come to the side of my chair. And I'm doing that just so that you can see that it's good to be holding onto a chair if you've got any issues with your balance. So maybe pick up one heel, push the ball of the foot down into the floor. See what feels different if you're doing it standing up. And just as a pointer, have that knee very slightly soft that you're of your straight leg. It's a slightly soft knee. It's not bent, but it's not locked. And then push the tops of the toes down. It's easier when you're standing up to move on to different sides of your feet. So do have all the toes even on the floor, and that'll help your foot to be in line with your shin. And then the tops of the backs of the toes go down again. And we pop that foot down and just take a moment to notice how that feels in your leg. Your leg might feel quite active, quite alive. So we'll do it on the other side, picking up the heel. Brilliant, just pressing there for a moment. Deciding for yourself how hard to push into that foot, keeping your standing knee very slightly soft. And then we push the tops of the toes down, keeping the foot in line with the shin. Noticing what that feels like. And then bringing the tops of the toes, the backs of the toes down again. And popping the foot on the floor. And just notice how that feels in your body. Then what we're going to do is look at the toes and see if you can pick up one big toe and the other one. Push the big toe down, pick up the middle three and the other one. And you might notice that connection with the arches of the feet a bit more when you're standing up. So just play around with that and see how it feels. And the final thing we're going to work with is just having that awareness of having the feet even on the floor. So a lot of us have habits of leaning forward or leaning back or leaning on one foot or leaning on the other. So we're just going to work into maybe leaning back, leaning forward and coming between the two, going on the right foot, going on the left foot, hold the chair if you need to, coming between the two, and then we're going to push down through the heels and push the ball of the foot and the big toe down and push the little toe side of the foot down. And you might notice that you're really lifting the arches of your feet a little bit when you do that. And that's going to help you to work up into your pelvic floor muscles and into your tummy muscles. It's in Sanskrit, in yoga, it's called Pada Bandha. Pada means feet and Bandha means energy lock. And you know those days you have, well maybe you don't, I do sometimes, where I feel like all my energy is just draining out of my body down into the earth beneath me. Pada Bandha helps you to feel that you're stopping, that you're keeping that energy inside your body so you can use it. So pushing through the heels, balls of the feet, little toe sides of the feet, and you'll feel, I think, that strength come into your body. And you can practice that sitting down as well if you want to. So thank you very much for joining me for this practice. I hope you found it useful. As I said at the beginning, it's a very useful practice if you have issues with your joints, with your feet or with your knees or with your hips or your back. And it's very beneficial to work with the feet if you have problems with anxiety. It's a technique I use on my yoga therapy for stress and anxiety courses, and people find it such a great technique to have because it's easy to remember, it's easy to do, and it's very effective. So thank you for joining me for this practice.